And now on Grid Tonight, a new IndyCar chassis is expected to land in 2028. How long overdue is the series for a brand new car? Liberty Media's purchase of MotoGP was approved. Is this a good or bad thing for the future of motorcycle racing? Carlos Sainz Sr. has decided not to run for FIA president. Is it becoming more likely that MBS will run unopposed? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lemon, and with me as always, Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. And now, Josh, take it away with our top story this evening.
Good evening to you both as well, and to everybody watching. So, last Saturday at Road America, the NTT IndyCar Series officially confirmed plans to introduce a new IndyCar chassis set to debut in 2028. Dallara will return as the chassis builder, and the goal is to design a car that looks appealing to a new generation of race fans while keeping specifically the styling cues that will make it look as an IndyCar should. IndyCar also wants to improve overall raceability, so the new car will be lighter with a weight reduction of 85 to 100 pounds compared to the current DW12 chassis that have been adapted over the years, the aero screen and the hybrid engine added to the compound over the seasons. We'll also move to a 2.4-litre twin-turbocharged V6 engine, which is expected to provide more torque and horsepower than the current car. The gearbox for 2028 will also be 25 pounds lighter compared to the current gearbox. Low voltage hybrid technology that was introduced to IndyCar almost a year ago will continue to evolve with the new car, as it will have a longer deployment, more horsepower gain, and improved performance. As the DW12 chassis has been known for its life-saving safety features, there will also be additional safety innovations with the new car. We'll see an ergonomic driver cockpit to improve the seating position. The aero screen will be integrated into the chassis instead of bolted on, with a new rollover hoop as well. IndyCar hopes to have the new car on track for testing in early 2026, with a photo taken by Joe Sabinski from Penske Entertainment. Yes! New car! Finally! It's coming! What are your thoughts on the initial details shared about the new IndyCar chassis for 2028?
I mean, it all sounds good on paper, right? But how many times have we gotten, a new set of regulations where it looks good on paper, and then when you actually see it on the track, it doesn't do what they said it was going to do. So that's the part that obviously concerns me in recent memory. The only set of regulations that seem to, have lived up to the hype is what we have right now in sports car racing, with IMSA's GTP class and the World Endurance Championships hypercar class, because it's just been a phenomenal golden age for sports car racing. So they definitely delivered with those set of regulations. And for IndyCar's sake, I hope that they will. And it's really crazy. This car is going to be like 15, 16 years old by the time its life cycle comes to an end. We definitely had a good run with the DW12 and saved a lot of lives, kept the drivers a lot safer for the years. We've seen some great racing along the way, but it's past due for a new car. And I'm really happy that it's planning to arrive in 2028. And it's good that they plan to have it on track early next year for testing, and they'll have 2 full years, to sort out any issues with it. So hopefully there'll be a small rollout at the start of the 2028 season, and we'll see what this next generation IndyCar is going to do. And Josh, you mentioned the additions of the aero screen in 2020, and then the hybrids last summer added extra weight to the car, and that really, upset the handling of the car. And we've also seen heard some of the drivers talk about how it's changed, the car and how they have to adapt their driving style and all of that. And a lot of the drivers aren't a fan of how the car drives now. So it's probably music to their ears. That's going to be 85 to 100 pounds lighter, because, you need to have a traditional, formula car here. And, instead of something that's, feel like you're dragging an anchor. And it's also a good thing that, that the aero screen will be built onto the car, instead of, it's just something that you bolt on. Real positive there. And just overall, this new car is probably going to be better suited for the hybrid system that we, bolt onto the back of them right now. So that's another positive. Maybe we'll see the true potential of this hybrid engine in the IndyCar Series. And as I've been saying on our wrap-up show, we've had 3 good races in a row in IndyCar with the hybrid. Streets of Detroit, good race. Gateway was really good, and then Road America was good as well. So I think we're finally figuring something out with this hybrid, and for IndyCar's sake, through the rest of this season, 2026, 2027, I hope we're finally figuring out this package so we have something to work with until we can get to the new car. But all in all, I think it all sounds really good on paper, and I hope it'll end up delivering.
Yeah, likewise. Good evening, everybody. The speckiest car that was ever a spec series that ever specced, the IndyCar DW12. It's like, those bird ball things that you put in the tree and they just peck at it and they just keep pecking at it. That's what we've done with this car. As you said, Josh, we've added the aero screen, adding the hybrid. We had the aero kits and they went away. And all the other bits and pieces that we've seen over these last few years. But to have that all now going to be integrated into this new car is going to be really good. If they can get the weight down, as you said, Kobe, people have struggled with it. The costs of this hybrid, I think, have gone past where I think a lot of it was supposed to be at the beginning, much like we saw in British touring cars a few years ago when they brought their hybrid system in. And now, of course, that's fallen out of bed as well. So if we can keep some of the costs back down again, of course, with a new car, there always going to be a massive cost and such like for the teams, but I'm sure that can be hopefully sorted. And to your point about the safety, only last week, Joseph Newgarden's terrific rollover at Gateway, proving once again how magnificent really this DW12 has been in the case of safety. We've seen some terrifying crashes over the last 13 or years or whatever it's been now with this car at Indy, on road courses, on Gateway, as I mentioned, and other places. And it stood up every single time, which is thankful. We've had the odd injury here or there, but for the most part, it's been fantastic. If they can keep that core safety element with this new car, get some of the weight down, and we could be on to a winner. But I will just hold the guns on IndyCar saying they're going to do something, and then it never happening. The game still not happened. Calendar changes still not happened, although we've just had some breaking news on that as we went on the air that Thermal looks like it's not going to be back next year on the calendar, unsurprisingly. So plenty of things we always talk about with IndyCar that never actually happen. This one though does look like it might.
Thermal was an interesting challenge. It had some interesting bits, but let's never go back there ever again. Thank you very much.
Testing. I give it that preseason test. If they want to go with a Thermal for preseason test, have no issue with that whatsoever. But but as far as a race there, probably don't need to do that again. I know they experimented with that so-called all-star race, which was really a dud. I think Palou ended up dominating that one, and then just this year, it just didn't live up to the standard. And, Fox had that issue, with the trucking, and they said it was a problem with Thermal just being out there rather than being at your traditional road course racing facility. So that's an issue there. So I think Thermal is probably best suited, to be your preseason test destination.
Yeah, and the Fox team have actually solved that problem now as well, because if they do go off there or they have a rain delay, they've bought themselves a Nintendo N64 and a couple of GoldenEye as well. So they've been playing that. I knew at the Oval at Gateway they were playing it during the rain delays. Adam's with us. He's looking forward to seeing how this new car does on track in a few years' time. Yep, it'll be old enough to be drafted into whatever Donald Trump wants to get up to next. IndyCar to Mexico City, let's go. That's a good option. That, to be fair, I think after the interesting things of NASCAR, it would, I think, make more sense for IndyCar to go back there, as it's got more of a route to go there. I think Brazil should be on that mix, and Montreal as well in Canada, not just in Toronto. They should have a proper Indy series on their side, where rumor is F1 is not going to be in too good of a favour with that side of the world coming soon next year, as we've been talking about in the programme. Let's carry on, because IndyCar President Doug Bowles has said that what many fans and drivers have been saying for the last few years, the time has come for a new chassis, and he has praised the DW12 for serving the series well since 2012. But given the additions of the aero screen and hybrid engine, he acknowledged this accelerated the need for a brand new car. Last year, IndyCar had planned to debut the hybrids at the start of the 2024 season, but due to teething issues, they delayed it till later on in the season at Mid-Ohio. The new 2028 IndyCar chassis was supposed to come in 2027, but it's been pushed back a year now as well. what a surprise. But when it comes to the 2028 IndyCar, if they do run into some major issues during the development process, can they afford to delay it to 2029 or later? Because then we're running the risk of having this car in 3 different decades.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a mad statement, isn't it? To have run this DW12 across 3 different decades of the series. Don't forget, if you go back to COVID times, supercars had delayed their Gen 3, and then they talked about bringing it in mid-season, and then delayed it to the end of the season. That was going to be a thing. And that obviously they had a lot of teething problems with that in the beginning. Seems to have sorted itself out really nicely now. But yeah, they can't afford any slip-ups with this. This has got to be a smooth transition. We talked about, and I mentioned before in my previous answer, a lot of fans on the back of IndyCar, and we've seen that over the last month to 6 weeks, haven't we, since Indianapolis as well, with all the Penske stuff and what's gone on since. So you can't afford, again, and nod to Ben on this one, people getting on the back of IndyCar, you can't afford them to lose any more of the fan base for teething issues with cars, with the television stuff, which we just talked about, and all that kind of thing. This has to go absolutely to the book.
I totally agree, Matt. I don't really have much to add, but they really need to have a good timeline here. Like we need to get this done at this time, and they need to do their best to stick on schedule. But I know along the way everything doesn't go according to plan, and you'll see some hiccups along the way. But yeah, I don't think IndyCar can afford to delay this to 2029 or later. I think that this is something that needs to happen in 2028, and whatever the season. Whatever the first race of the season is in 2028, if it's still St. Pete or another location, that's when the car needs to be ready to go, and hopefully it won't have too many issues once it comes on. But it's going to be interesting to see what this car looks like. I remember reading over the offseason, Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com wrote how IndyCar sent the team owners like a rendering of what they had hoped the new car would look like, and there was a lot of people who were upset about how it looked. So hopefully since then they've gone back to the drawing board, redraw the car and get something that the team owners and the drivers can get on board with, because you definitely want, you really want to design a car that's obviously going to work extremely well on the different types of tracks we go to, whether it's the super speedways like Indianapolis, short oval like Gateway, or road course like Mid-Ohio, or street course like Long Beach. You need to have a car able to, perform and put on good racing at all 4 of those different types of tracks. And hopefully we'll end up getting that. And when you look at like the I guess the tier system when it comes to open wheel racing, obviously Formula One's going to be at the top, pinnacle of motorsport. And then right after that, you want to think like, what's the next best there? And a lot of people I've seen, they say it's a super formula car. It's probably the second best compared to F1. And then after that, you might get IndyCar. But I think IndyCar, with this new car, they need to step it up, and they need to at least rival Super Formula here to try, as the second best open wheel racing series in the world. So hopefully they'll design a car that's capable of living up to that height. And going back to Adam's comment right quick before we move on about IndyCar to Mexico City, I also think Racer.com wrote a while ago that if Thermal disappeared from the schedule, its race would probably go to Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, and that's why I said on our chat before tonight's show that this is probably a good sign for Mexico City, because we've been hearing for like the last few weeks and months, that they're very close, to getting an IndyCar race next spring in Mexico City, and how it will make a lot of sense logistically. So we got the Dallas street course race, outside of AT&T Stadium there. It will make a lot of sense to, go to Mexico City, then go to Dallas, or vice versa. You're in Dallas and then you go to Mexico City right after that, rather than going all the way across the country, and then it becomes a logistical nightmare. So I think that would be really exciting, if they're able to go to Mexico City. And also for the sake of Pato O'Ward, who is a superstar in Mexico. Yeah. I mean, he is just a mega star in Mexico. It's just so amazing. Like wherever he goes, it doesn't matter if it's the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It doesn't matter if it's, somewhere in St. Louis at Gateway. He brings a crowd with him, and if he's really, getting all of these fans to come up to him at these IndyCar races in the States, if they go to Mexico City next year, like, can you imagine what the scenes are going to be like? I mean, we've already seen it. We've already seen it in last year when he ran the FP1 with McLaren during Mexico during the Mexican Grand Prix race weekend, like Pato wasn't even driving in the race, and I believe he had more people approaching than they did Sergio Perez. Just show you how popular this guy is.
I was going to say, listening to Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi a couple of weeks ago on the back of the Mexico NASCAR race, they were shocked how much billboards of Pato were up around the city, adverts on the television with him doing bits and pieces. He is like the number one Mexican motorsport guy. You would think with Daniel Suarez being in NASCAR and that being the whole weekend, and of course we saw how that went in that Xfinity race, it would be big for him. But Pato is the absolute number one guy. And back to your renders comment, Kobe, you remember probably back to, I don't know, must have been about 2010 when they were having we had the same conversation about when the DW12 came in. We had the renders come out for all the sort of, they had, I seem to remember they had 4 that they went to pick from, and a couple of those were absolutely ghastly looking things. So they went with an okay one in the end, and as we've talked about, it's lasted the test of time.
Yeah, I think it's written in the Doomsday Book now, the DW12. It's just logged in, isn't it? Am I watching this program at work? Yes, I am. Hello as well to the Oracle, watching in as well. No idea what we're doing for the Cup Series yet, because it's such a weird weekend for NASCAR in the commentary book. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this is my first time having 2 different races at 2 different tracks in my commentary of the series. I can't remember a time where they've been split up and I've been covering all. So I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Right, let's move on to our second story of the evening then. And this has been something that we've all been talking about for about 18 months now. And certainly, as a personal thing, been speaking to in motorcycle paddocks, everybody's been looking forward to. Liberty Media has received unconditional approval from the European Commission to complete its acquisition of MotoGP. Now, they're expected to close the deal no later than July the 3rd. And after seeing the incredible work Liberty Media has done for Formula One, the hope is for them to do the same thing for MotoGP and subsequent series of the World Superbike Championship by using its expertise to increase MotoGP's fan base and grow the sport globally and commercially. Once the deal is closed, Liberty Media will own 84% of MotoGP, while Dorna Sport will retain 16% ownership of the motorcycle racing series. Dorna CEO Carmelo Espinosa, I can never say his name right. Susie Perry's tried to teach me over the years. Dorna Sport CEO Carmelo Espinosa and his management team will continue to run MotoGP. He said that this is an important milestone for the future of MotoGP, and he believes that Liberty Media is the best possible partner for the sport. Graphic courtesy of Liberty Media. Yeah, we all just call him Carmelo as well. It's, he's the big boss that looms around. I've never really had to say his last name much as well. It's like a tongue twister. But Matt, what are your expectations? Because we've been talking about it for years now, about the possibility when it was first rumored. Then 18 months ago, it became a reality. And we've all been crossing our fingers that it's going to be good. But what changes are you expecting to see? And also, is this a good thing or a bad thing for motorcycle racing as a whole?
Yeah, Carmelo is the Bernie of of the MotoGP paddock, basically, if you want to have a comparison. I mean, it can only be good. Surely it can only be good. We've seen what Liberty has done for Formula One in the last 6 or 7 years, however long it's been now, since Chase Carey and whatnot came in, and Ross Brawn, and there was all the hubbub of everything being changed over. Then a bit of a lull period while they got themselves settled, and the last few years have been a tremendous success, pretty much all round, really, apart from the odd blip here or there. So, MotoGP, I mean, we love it. It is an absolute spectacle. Just like Mugello at the weekend, as always, just a tremendous place for the Italian Grand Prix. It just needs a little bit of a nudge along, a push off the grid, if you will, just to give it a go, because it used to get back here in the UK, and this is very parochial, when it was on BBC, we had the MotoGP race live on BBC, generally on BBC Two, of an afternoon, and it would get huge numbers, on TV. Massive. I would watch on Eurosport on delay because the commentary was better. But the BBC numbers were just gargantuan at times, back in the prime Rossi era, of course. And it's obviously faded away, and a lot of the TV now across Europe, especially, is behind paywalls, as everything is going nowadays. Maybe Liberty can strike some deals with some terrestrial TV companies, get it back in front of the eyeballs, get people watching again, promote the super. There is some huge superstars. We talked about Top Rack a couple of weeks ago coming to MotoGP. Massive. Yeah, absolutely huge. Him against Marquez, box office stuff. Can't wait to see it happen. And now Liberty have got the platform to go and shine a light on it, and hopefully that'll. What's the phrase? High tide raises all boats. World Superbike under the control of Dorna. That will improve surely. The support classes, Moto2, Moto3, of course, under the MotoGP banner. WCR, we've seen what they've done with F1 have done rather than Liberty have done with the F1 Academy after the W Series went pop. That's been a tremendous success. The early year, we're in year 2 now, aren't we, of the women's series of bikes in the World Superbike paddock. That perhaps will go onto the MotoGP bill in a bit of a swap around with some series, which has been mooted already. A lot of positives to come. Don't expect change this weekend at Assen, for instance. It's going to take them some time, as it did, as I mentioned, with F1. It took them a little while to get things going, but when the ball was rolling, it didn't stop. So, yeah, I'm really positive about this news, and it is exactly what bike racing needed. A real good time for them to have it happen.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I've been speaking to over the last 18 months have all said the same thing. Can't wait for Liberty Media to come in. Can't wait for Dorna to not have as much control. Even though they're staying in charge, Dorna, they're not going to be in complete control. So they're not. It's no longer their say. They're just there to implement it. And it's very much how Bernie Eccleston was in 2017. He was sort of there, but he wasn't in control. And then 2018... everything changed over massively with Liberty, because Liberty owned F1 in 17. Let's not forget that. And this is now the similar situation. We won't probably see this until 2026. Maybe we'll hear the plans, and then 2027, everything will get really shifted into gear again.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting too much of a change. Yeah, go on.
Again, which times nicely in MotoGP land for the new regulations as well, doesn't it? So
yeah. The 850cc bikes dropped down from 1,000, and that's going to be even better because, as we've said on the show and in commentary over the past couple of months, that's going to be the first time that MotoGP, every single bike is going to be having a 2027 bike. They're not going to have any 1,000 cc's left over for the year before because the regulations are changing so big. So the satellite teams as well, the customer teams, the factory teams, they're all going to have exactly the same machinery underneath them, which means that in 2027, it's going to be box office because every rider is going to have an equal opportunity. Can't wait for it. New fuel coming in as well. Banning of the ride height devices and less technical stuff. It is going to be fantastic. And they're coming in at the right time. They're going to open it up a bit more as well. Dorna have slightly started to feel the pressure of the social media buzz, and they've slowly started to open the door. Liberty are going to come in and kick it wide open, which I'm very much looking forward to. As if you're a dear viewer, you know exactly how much I've been fighting with them over the years. And it's fantastic news all round. I can't wait, because MotoGP is some of the best racing that we see and we cover. And as you said, there's just not been, ever since Valentino Rossi left, there's not been eyes on the sport, and it needs to be, and it's going to be good. They've got the sprint race format that's kind of working. I think it's definitely the best version of it. World Superbikes. My dad has been watching World Superbikes this year because I've been doing some of the commentaries in a different commentary box where he's in as well at the same time, because the sessions are crossing over. And we were at Moist a couple of weeks ago, and we had Top Rack and Hulaga side by side, lap after lap after lap. And he said it was some of the best racing he's ever seen. And that's what you get in World Superbikes. So we need more eyes on that. We need eyes on the Women's Championship as well. Speaking from Maddie's point of view as well, about how you need eyes on it as well. And she was the most energetic team on the grid, and they're not there this year, and hopefully they will be there soon. But that whole series needs a boost as well. They've got the wrong bikes to start with as well. The R7s are not the machinery to be on because they're difficult. You can't accelerate through the corners. They're easy to throw you off. And let's face it, they've had about 5 big accidents where riders have got seriously injured in the course of a season and a half. So that needs to change. And the gaps are massive. You've got 4 at the front, and then you've got it. Yeah, hi. Yeah, that's Dorna probably having a go at me. I'm complimenting them too much. So yeah, or either that or the FIA getting ready for our next segment. But no, honestly,
I wasn't sure if it was me or you, and I don't want to say anything just in case it wasn't me.
Hello, right, to next door's Wi-Fi we go, because mine's being temperamental. So next door, come to the rescue again. Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to what is going to be a super time for Liberty Media. And hopefully, fingers crossed, considering I'm the only person who does any sort of social media content for a GP, they'll allow me in a bit more as well. Should we move on to our... Go on, quickly.
Just before you move on, you mentioned social media. Remember before Liberty in Formula One, there was nothing. Nothing at all, was there? There was no Twitter, there was no Facebook, there was a very, very unpopulated YouTube channel with the odd highlight video here and there from memory.
And Peter Windsor.
Since Liberty came in, they've just absolutely smashed through that, and now we get all the hashtags and everything else going on, and the teams have bought into it too off the back of that. So yeah, could do this well. And we know MotoGP social game is pretty, obviously your stuff, but from their own stuff, at times it's a little bit iffy, but it's in a decent place. And again, just needs a little bit of a kick up the bum.
Massively. If we're getting 31,000 viewers on our watch-long coverage on the second channel, then there's definitely a problem with MotoGP. They're that starved for things. So maybe it's not that good for me, but maybe they'll invite me in to do some stuff. I'll have to call Mandy Patterson on this, although she's back in Australia for now, for a few months. So the time difference is a killer. Okay, so are you sitting comfortably? It's time for the latest chapter. FIA Pandemanium. Here we go. Once again, the FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, has fired another key member as he continues to reshape the FIA during a re-election year. This time, Sarah Marini was let go. She served as the FIA's head of sustainability, diversity and inclusion. Now, according to Andrew Benson from BBC Sport, her role was eliminated after an internal restructuring that split her responsibilities across 2 different other existing departments. Salam moved sustainability to the Secretary General of Mobility, while diversity and inclusion will go to human resources. However, Sarah put this statement out. There is life outside the FIA, a life where talent and dedication are rewarded, where women in leadership positions can thrive, feel valued and respected. Which enough as well, Benson says that the FIA Senior Human Resources Director, who is Alessandra Malheim as well, said that the FIA is committed to advancing opportunities for women within the organisation and across mobility and motorsport, and are proud that 32% of our workforce are women in a male-dominated industry. They've been reading my article I wrote for the Grimsby Telegraph in 2013. That's exactly what it was called. He added that an FIA spokesperson added that nearly 100 women working for the FIA, 47% of them hold senior positions. The link to this article is in the video description below and graphic courtesy of Autosport. Maybe there would be more if he didn't sack 3 of them who were in such high positions. One of them was the FG race director who didn't even get to direct a race. Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are now up to 26 people who have been fired in the FIA. 26. Let that just came in. That is 26-26. What the hell is going on? Kobe, what did you make of Sarah's comments following her departure from the FIA?
Well, Josh, it seems like there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. Obviously, there are probably a lot more to the story, than what we've seen so far. But always, when someone's making comments like this, to put it back on the screen real quick, it's always, concerning when she's saying that, that about talking about life outside the FIA, where your talent and dedication can be rewarded. But the part, in red, that Autosport, wonderfully highlighted, where women can, in leadership positions, can thrive, feel valued and respected. It makes me wonder, like, what's going on at the FIA right now where women can't feel, valued, respected, or thrive in leadership positions. And it's really, the reputation that Mohammed bin Sulayem has, had since he's been the president of the FIA. He's been in trouble, for making misogynistic comments and all of that. So I guess it just goes hand in hand, right? It's real unfortunate to see Sarah, lose her position here, because I feel like, sustainability, diversity, and inclusion are an important part, not just the FIA. It's an important part of any business, but if you've been following the news and all of that, then sustainability and especially diversity and inclusion has been under attack. And we've seen businesses, everywhere, either eliminating their departments or doing what they did right here, just trying to downsize it and shove it into another department and give someone else an additional responsibility. Yeah, real disappointing to see this happen. And Josh, if we know anything, this is not the last departure from the FIA, because we'll be talking about another departure next week, the week after that, next month, next 2 months, or by the end of the year, because Mohammed bin Sulayem, if he gets another term come this December, he's probably going to end up letting a lot more people go.
Yes, the latest chapter in the fiasco, FIA SCO. Yeah, Kobe, you're right. Those comments are pointed, aren't they, about women thriving to do more and perhaps not getting the opportunities to. And we've talked endlessly in this sport over the last 5, 6, 7 years about sustainability and all that kind of thing. And it looks like that's being shuffled around on the good ship called the FIA. It's probably been pushed off the side straight into the water by the sound of things, that department. So, I mean, what can we say that hasn't already been said in this story, the never-ending story of MBS and the P45s that he's throwing at people? So, yeah, just let's hope, again, as we said about everybody, let's hope they get back up on their feet and get a decent job elsewhere. We know a lot of people already have, and some with, on sort of gardening leave or whatever, are coming to jobs over the next little while. 26 people, you can have a decent 11-on-11 soccer game with some subs there from people that have left the FIA, which is appalling over the last this time scale that another one has departed the ship.
That very popular meme.
Oh, I thought you were going to do the dog.
No, I'm sat here waiting. I'm that popcorn in hand. Oh. Right.
The Michael Jackson one.
Yeah, that one.
I thought you were doing the dog. This is fine dog.
What me?
No, the one with the one with all the fire going on around him.
Oh, right, that one. Yeah, I could do that one.
Yeah, that one.
Hang on. Blimey, that's it. Let me have a look.
Yeah, okay, yes.
That's all I got.
That.
I could do the. That's the best I've got for fire. Haven't got anything else. Right. More tea, people. More tea. Because there's more FIA-related news. Carlos Sainz Sr. has ultimately decided not to run for president this year. On a previous episode of Good Tonight, we talked about Sainz seriously considering a presidential campaign. However, he wanted time to think about it and see if he had enough support from others before making it official. Now, Sainz has made his decision, and with just 5 months and 2 weeks to go until Election Day, nobody has stepped forward to challenge Salayam. Carlos Sainz, however, this is Carlos Sainz Sr., of course, said this: "Hi everyone, this message is to publicly confirm that I have finally decided not to run for the presidency of the FIA in this year's election. I have worked hard these past months to understand in depth the situation at the FIA and the demands and complexities that come with such an important project. After a thoughtful reflection, I have come to the conclusion that the present circumstances are not ideal to set the grounds for my candidacy. Furthermore, I have realized that the properly running for president would notably compromise my preparation for the Dakar, and I do not wish to weaken my commitment to Ford and my team. These concerns have therefore inclined me to be realistic and desist from my FIA endeavour for now. Despite stepping down from this race, my passion for serving and leading in the motorsport world hasn't changed, and I still believe that the organisation needs important changes, which I mean generally hopeful that will be tackled in the upcoming years. Both racing and mobility have been my life, and I will closely follow future developments with great interest. I will always support my sport and try to contribute in all meaningful ways to improve mobility for road users around the world. Finally, I want to sincerely thank you all for the message of support, encouragement, and advice I have received during the past weeks. They have reinforced my confidence to continue striving towards my present and future goals, and I am truly grateful. Thank you." From Carlos Sainz Sr. No! Oh, no! No, I think we need a minute. We got close. I genuinely am heartbroken when I read that this morning. In fact, I think when I read it, I was in Aldi. I was like, just stood there crying next to the meat aisle.
You dropped 4 pints of milk on the floor as you were reading it. Oh,
no! Oh, with time running out for someone to enter this race, are you concerned that Salayam will cruise to re-election by running unopposed?
Well, good news for the keyboard warriors that said this is a conflict of interest against Carlos Sainz Jr. Those 4 people that were, oh my goodness, this can't happen. To use an Australian phrase, is he going to Stephen Bradbury this, where everybody falls over and he comes through to win the gold medal, MBS? That classic speed skating clip from many years ago. It's like the horses in the Kentucky Derby and they've all gone and there's just MBS going, oh, I'll just take this to the bank. Yeah, huge disappointment. I mean, Carlos would have been excellent. He would have been a real good, you feel like he just would have been a great egg to have there and get things back going in the right direction. Much like I always said when John Todd won and he ran against Ari Vatanen, that I wanted Vatanen to win because he was just a real good motorsport guy. And obviously John Todd it felt like, oh, he's coming in from Ferrari, everything's going to go Ferrari's way. Of course it didn't. But again, I'll go back to the comment I've said every time we talk about this. When John Todd was the FIA president, we didn't hear from the FIA. Can we have those times back, please? Please, because every week, at least it fills some time on the show, especially when we've got a quiet news week like this to talk about stuff going on in the FIA. But it does look like, unless a bolt from the blue comes, then it does look like that Salayam is going to run unopposed and 4 more years, etc.
Yeah, it does seem like we're running out of time to get another candidate into the race, right? Yeah, as each day goes by, it doesn't look good for all the people who want to see change within the FIA. I know Sullivan's been making a lot of changes of his own. A lot of people are extremely unhappy with that, but I think it would be in everyone's best interest, to have at least one other candidate on the ballot, so you at least have a choice. But I'm starting to get concerned because we're almost at July now, and the election's in December. So if we keep going on and on, and no one enters the race, and if someone tries to enter very last minute, I think it's going to be really hard for them, to try to build up, the coalition of voters they need to end up winning the FIA presidency. And I think it would be, obviously really disappointing if we don't get someone else running. But yeah, it was a real disappointment to see Carlos Sainz, drop out. Well, he never entered, so I guess you can't say he dropped out. But it was nice. It was nice to see him interested in the position, and with him, pulling out now. I'm really hopeful that someone else will decide to enter the race out of the blue. Someone that people can stand behind. Someone who can restore the integrity of the FIA. And I'm wondering what on earth happened to those rumors of Susie Wolf potentially making a run for FIA president.
Well, I spoke to somebody else over the weekend whose identity I can't reveal. But if you've been following the show, you probably know who. And Matt, you should definitely know who because we talked about it off air. Yes, I spoke to them and they confirmed that they were not running because they were not allowed to, as a certain they might be taking another position in British motorsport at the end of the next season. More on that later, from what I've been told over the weekend. Yes, I'll save that for Hots and Knots, actually. Unless you want me to run it now, we're not at the end of the show. I can probably say it. We've got an extra 2 minutes, so if you can hold on. Do you want me to explain?
May as well roll it out.
TOCA might not be running the Touring Car Championship in Great Britain at the end of next season. They could go. Yeah. So Motorsport UK could be an option to take over. And if that happens, the current head of the Motorsport UK would then become where Alan Gow is now. So, yeah.
Okay.
So that is what's happening. So I don't know where Alan Gow's going to go, but I should have actually asked Alan Gow over the weekend. I spoke to him a couple of times if he should be FIA president. He'd be a good FIA president, actually, Alan Gow. But the other one, who I can't mention, has confirmed he's not running for the FIA president because there's uncertainty around what's happening with TOCA. And there's uncertainty also happening around ITV because their contract's up at the end of the year, end of next year for touring cars, and they haven't re-signed yet. So everything for touring cars is completely up in the air post 2026. So yeah, that's why we haven't heard from somebody else who should have put their name in the ballot and hasn't. Okay.
Keep an eye on that one.
Yeah, it was a very fruitful weekend, actually. When I went there, I'll get more on that in Hots and Nods, actually, about what I got up to at Alton Park. But next, we're going to hand over to Matt White for the latest from our Grid EPI update.
Thank you, Josh. Another hugely busy weekend of the Grid Endurance Performance Index this weekend. We'll get to the big race of the weekend in a minute, but we'll start in America at Watkins Glen, where the IMSA Series was back in action. A lot of these guys and crews were at Le Mans, of course, last week. Straight back into the IMSA Championship with a 6-hour race up in the Finger Lakes region of upstate New York. And it was a win for Meyershank Racing after 6 hours on Sunday for that car, number 60. The super team, the championship winning guys, or certainly battled for it a few years ago, Tom Blomqvist and Colin Braun getting the victory in the Salem 6 hours in GTP. So congratulations to those two getting Acura back on the board. In LMP2, it was a win for United Autosport. We talked about a lot about United Autosport last week when we were talking about McLaren coming to WEC. And this is what they do best, winning in LMP2. Dan Goldberg, Paul di Resta, and Rasmus Lind picking up the victory there in LMP2 for the 22 United car. In GTD, in the Pro category, it was a win for BMW. Paul Miller Racing's second car, Max Hess and Dan Harper, the two BMW hot shoes in that car, getting the victory. And in GTD, Aston Martin came out on top. Tom Gamble, Casper Stevenson, and Zach Robichon, the winners for Heart of Racing in the 27. We'll get to the Nürburgring in a minute. We'll go to Spa next because British GT had its one trip out of Britain for the season, and they were in the Ardennes. And it was that Aston Martin that got the victory there. The first win for the team, Blackthorn Motorsport. The first win for one of its drivers, Giacomo Petrobelli, but a 20th British GT victory for Johnny Adam. He's one of, if not the best to ever do it in British GT nowadays, and they took home the victory after the 3-hour race at Spa-Francorchamps on Sunday afternoon. Across the forest at the Nürburgring, here's the car that should have won the race, the Grello Porsche, and did cross the line to win. Kevin Estre at the wheel of it, that he was penalised for an incident which took out the leading GT4 car late in the race, and in fact rolled it. Crossed the line to win, but then was given a time penalty, which led to BMW getting the victory for the Rover Racing team. Augusto Farfus, Jesse Krohn, Raffaele Marcello, and Kelvin van der Linde getting the victory aboard the number 98 car in the Pro category, SP9, and overall. The second BMW win of 2 in the Intercontinental GT Challenge, because of course they won at Bathurst with a different driver lineup, but Kelvin van der Linde and Augusto Farfus were part of that winning crew at Bathurst, and they've now won at the Nürburgring as well. Pro-Am was won by Dennis Fetzer, David Schumacher, son of Ralph, and the brothers, Salman and Joseph Ovega. And the Am category was won by Sack Nana, Christoph Brewer, Thomas Much, and Dieter Schmidtmann. Here is what it has done to the points for the Endurance Performance Index of 2025 through week 13. Antonio Giovinazzi is still the point leader. There we go, thank you. But because Felipe Nasr and Nick Tandy, who of course were top pre-Le Mans, had not a great run at Watkins Glen again at the weekend, they've now slipped to 5th. And look who snuck up into 2nd place. Jamie Chadwick and Matthias Joubert, the teammates from the ELMS, along with Danny Ucadella, that trio in the LMP2 category in the ELMS. Those two guys and girls, are now 2nd in the EPI, which is huge. Tandy and Nasr, as I said, slipping down, and the Le Mans winners, Hansen, Kubica, and Yiffy Ye, still in the top 10. Lawrence Van Voort will send the best to him after his tremendous accident in qualifying on Friday, which saw his car ruled out of the race. Last year's winning Audi team with Lawrence, with Porsche team, sorry, not Audi. That was 10 years ago when Van Voort was driving for Audi. Porsche team crashing out of the racing qualifying with Lawrence at the wheel. Scary crash. He's on the mend, and all was well, but he didn't take part in the race, so his score remains unchanged. Here's what the top 50 looks like going into week number 14, which consists of 2 races. It's another 24-hour race this weekend. David Addison's 2nd in 3 weeks, because it's the Spa 24 Hours, sponsored by CrowdStrike, at Spa-Francorchamps this weekend. The 3rd round of the Intercontinental GT Challenge, the 2nd of the 24-hour races, and the 2nd of those 2 in that championship in as many weeks. So that's the big one of the weekend that will affect the scores in the EPI over the weekend. And also Super GT back in action after their little break. They're at Sepang in Malaysia, and that is Saturday. And it's a Saturday evening race, Malaysian time. So if you're in Europe and in America, perhaps, check your local listings and your time differences. That really might fall right into your ballpark to watch some Super GT, and it'll be into the twilight hours in Sepang. So that is going to be a good one, back there for the first time in a long time. So they're the 2 races coming up in the Grid EPI this weekend. We'll bring you all the winners and the photos from those winners on the show in this slot next week for week number 14 of the Grid Endurance Performance Index, currently being led by Ferrari's Antonio Giovinazzi. Now let's hand back to Kobe. More headlines from the week.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. Williams Racing has signed team principal James Vowles to a long-term contract extension. When he joined Williams in 2023, Vowles became the 3rd team principal in their 48-year history, following the footsteps of the late Sir Frank Williams and his daughter Claire Williams, who actually had the title deputy team principal because she didn't feel right taking her father's title. She felt like he was the one and only team principal of Williams. And since Vowles has taken over the Williams Formula One team, he has transformed the organization and hopes to return to the team's glory days. This season, Vowles has led Williams to his best start to an F1 season since 2016, as the team currently sits 5th in the Constructors with 55 points scored, which is more points than they've had in the last 3 seasons combined, which just shows how much Williams have improved this year. Vowles had been with the team has felt like home since the moment he walked through the front door, and while he's spent the last 2 years fixing the foundations, he believes they now have a platform to go for glory in the years ahead. Photo courtesy of Williams Racing. Spire Motorsports has hired a pair of road course ringers for this weekend's first NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race at Lime Rock Park. Starting with the number 07 Chevrolet Silverado, Thomas Annunziata will be behind the wheel of that truck in his series debut with sponsorship from Topliner. As Annunziata has been running part-time this year in the Xfinity Series with Coke Family Racing, he brings an extensive background in road course racing through sports cars and Trans Am. Annunziata said it's a dream come true to drive for a top Truck Series team and hopes to get Spire, another win. We'll also see Annunziata in the ARCA Menard Series race, driving the number 70 Toyota for Nitro Motorsports, the same team he drives for in the Trans Am Series. And in the number 7 Chevrolet Silverado, Rodney Sandstorm is back. That's right. IMSA GTP driver Jordan Taylor will make his NASCAR return. Gamebridge will sponsor the truck for Taylor's Truck Series debut. We've previously seen Jordan Taylor compete in 2 Xfinity Series races at Portland and the Charlotte Roval, including the Cup Series race at COTA as a replacement driver for the then injured Chase Elliott. Taylor's addition to the Truck Series highlights TWG Motorsports, which owns Spire, IndyCars, Andretti Global Supercars is Walkinshaw Andretti United, the new Cadillac Formula One team, and Taylor's IMSA team, Wayne Taylor Racing. Jordan Taylor said Lime Rock is a track he's familiar with from sports car racing and hopes to adapt to the truck quickly. Graphics courtesy of Spire Motorsports. The Repco Supercars Championship doubleheader in New Zealand will take place on back-to-back weekends next year. On the weekend of April 10th through 12th, 2026, Supercars will start its adventure in the North Island at Taupo. Then April 17th through 19th, they'll head to the South Island for the very first time in Christchurch at Ruapuna Raceway. New Zealand's Tourism and Hospitality Minister Louise Upston said having these 2 events on back-to-back weekends in April will help their tourism industry, which will likely encourage visitors to extend their trip by visiting both the North and South Islands. Meanwhile, Supercar CEO said April 2026 could be one of the biggest weekends in Supercars history as the series gets to showcase 2 of the very best tracks that New Zealand has to offer. Photo courtesy of Supercars. That's all the headlines I have for you this week. And now it's time for everyone's favorite game, Pick a Winner.
Yep, hots and knots to come. But before we get to there, we'll get through Pick a Winner. And there is how the championship stands in Pick a Winner after what was a busy weekend, where Matt and Kobe picked up, I think, 4 or 5 points, and they had all the same picks. I slipped one because I picked Will Brown to win that second race of the weekend on Saturday for Supercars, and it chipped me 1 place back because those guys picked Botfini to win all 3, and he duly did. Tanner, of course, not too far away in 4th position. Another busy weekend of Pick a Winner to come. We're going to start our picks for the week right now on the show, and you can as well by using the hashtag Pick a Winner on the Grid Network TV social media. Just a mention before we get there that it was a big weekend for Denver, one of our regulars. Congratulations to him. He picked up a good chunk of points this weekend. I think he was one of our highest scorers actually over the weekend, and he's up to 17th in the standings there on 4 points. So congratulations to him. Let's start with WRC because it is the Acropolis Rally Greece this weekend. It actually starts tomorrow. 4 o'clock UK time is the first stage of the weekend. So if you want to get a pick in for Rally Greece, you need to do it pretty sharpish before the first stage gets underway. Car breaker, going to be hot, going to be dusty, going to be stony. Toyota have won everything so far this season. I can't see that changing. I'm going to go with Elvin Evans to pick up another victory on Rally Greece this weekend. Kobe, who are you going with?
I'm going with a different Toyota rally driver. I'm going to go with Kali Rovanpera.
See how that pertails over the weekend. I mentioned it earlier in passing. It is Assen this weekend for the Dutch TT at the Cathedral in Holland. Massive weekend. And it's going to be probably another 2 points in the MotoGP pick a winner standings for Marc Marquez. He will be my pick yet again.
Yeah, same here. Marc Marquez for the sprint race at Assen. You going to make it unanimous, Josh?
Yeah, I definitely will, but I'm keeping my mind open for the Grand Prix because if there's one race on the calendar where anything can happen, it is the Dutch TT at the TT Assen because it's such a bizarre circuit that MotoGP kind of lends into itself being exciting. It is the only race on the calendar where you're allowed to sort of go nuts. I quite like how it's back-to-back with the Italian Grand Prix. But we go from, Silverstone to Aragon to Mugello now here. It's a good string of races. And in a couple of weeks' time, we've got the German Grand Prix. We're being treated to some classics. Germany, by the way, will be a complete Marquez domination. So lock that in now for every session. Not even joking, it will be every session. He is the king of the ring. But yeah, Saturday will be a Mark. But Sunday, that's going to be a tricky one. Because random things can happen. And there's weather in the air. It draws it in.
Yeah, always weather in the air at Assen. We've seen that over the last few years. Remember Jack Miller winning there on the VDS bike in the rain a few years back. Also to come this weekend, of course, 2 points from MotoGP at Assen, WRC Greece we've talked about, NASCAR Cup Series at Atlanta, the second trip to Atlanta for the season. Of course, that is a Saturday night race on TNT. So remember to get that pick in on Saturday for that. And the Formula One Grand Prix of Austria on Sunday as well. Get your picks in using the hashtag pick a winner in the comment section on this video or on Grid Network TV across whatever social media platform you choose. You can get your name on that board. You can get on the front page if you can get one or perhaps two right over the weekend there, troubling the bottom end of the score. Still 100 points plus available between now and the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix at the beginning of December, which is the final points pickup for the season. Right then, hots and knots to round out the show. We're clicking on towards an hour. We didn't think we'd get this far, but we are. Hots, Mugello, as I mentioned earlier, always excellent just for the crowd stuff, but they did boo Marc Marquez, and that's a bit of a knot. But I thought it was, the first 4 or 5 laps of that Grand Prix on Sunday were brain-busting stuff between the Marquez brothers and Bagnaia. I thought it was sensational. And then, unfortunately, it went flat when they all got separated.
Coincidentally, it went flat as soon as I joined the commentary box.
Ah.
I was finishing race 1 of the touring cars, and I got into the commentary box, and the race went dull. I was like, oh, why have I bothered turning up? As well, Megan had all the fun leading the coverage. No, great weekend from what I saw, because I was very heavily... I'd sort of left every series this weekend and focused on the touring cars, with it being Steve's last one. So, very, very good MotoGP weekend. I was surprised at how badly the KTMs did, to be fair, after showing such promise on the Friday.
Yeah.
They disappeared, and they've got to get themselves back in. You've got riders who don't want to be there. And I think the whole field at the moment feels like everyone was forced into a position. And now Jorge Martin doing this, I want to leave. It's sort of, everybody's still trapped. So you've got a trapped MotoGP field. And it's starting to come out, isn't it? The angers and the frustration of the riders. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, very strange. More MotoGP and not to come. A big one from me.
Okay.
A hot, and I'm just going to bring it back up on my phone here because I had it and I've lost it. Here we go. Excuse me, a hot to a friend of the show, Mr. Matthew Owens, who prophesied on Twitter yesterday. Here's his tweet. I'll read it. I think it would be really cool if Fox brought Mike Joy in to call the truck race at Lime Rock this weekend, being that he has such a love of the history of the track, road racing, and that area of the country. Mike replied, stay tuned. News outlet on Matthew Owens' reply. And today it was announced that Mike Joy is going to be part of the Fox coverage on Sunday. He's not going to be calling the race, but he is going to be part of the coverage in some shape or form on Saturday at Lime Rock. So the Oracle prophesizes, and it comes true. So now we can jump on his other bandwagon, which is to get Mike Joy and Larry Mack and Eli Gold into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. That's the next bandwagon we need to get on board with. So hot to Mr. Owens. Well done, you.
I'll go one further. When Mike eventually decides to hang up the headset, his last commentary must be Mike, Darrell, and Larry. Has to be. You for one last time. You've got to have those two in the booth. Let's get the elephant out of the room.
Yeah.
News breakout obviously says. Yeah. Steve Ryder, so emotional in his last touring car appearance. So emotional. Wonderful tributes from the Marshalls on Sunday morning. ITV, Hutch also retiring, who's the PA, the production assistant who counts everyone down. She was retired as well after 30 plus years. She was working on Formula One in 1997, so she's been there ever since ITV F1 started, and she moved over to touring cars, same as Lou and Steve. It was a big goodbye, and we were able to present him with Louise Goodman, LA Wilshire, by the way, as well, was able to organise it, and the team have chipped in. Louise Goodman was able to tell us what his favourite wine is and we were able to present it to him in a wonderful box. That says happy retirement, perfect days 2025 and everything. And he was very moved by that. And then off camera, after we'd finished everything and signed off, had a photo and had a conversation. And he said, "Stay in touch, won't you? Stay in touch." And he's such a warm, kind, loving bloke. And I'm going to miss him because it was very upsetting for me because as practically a nobody, walking into the touring car paddock last year, to meet Steve and for him to personally introduce me to the touring cars, to the media, and always ask after me and ask how it's all going and if I'm enjoying it and everything, and also be on hand. Ultimate helper, ultimate professional, and yeah, I feel like I've lost a mentor in many respects, and it's not going to be the same without him. And spoke to Paul O'Neill over the weekend, as you do, and Nikki Shields coming in as his replacement. He said she's got a lot to learn, but there's nobody better. She's going to do fantastic, and I look forward to catching up with her. I think Silverstone I'm at next as well, because I don't think we can do Donny. I think it's either Silverstone, that should be my last one. But yeah, catching up with her, unless I do Knockhill, I haven't decided yet. Louise, as always, is a delight. She's an utter joy as well. Yeah, the whole team was fantastic, and the whole atmosphere was good. Richard John Neal as well was always a helpful hand, and he's a crafty bloke as well. He's always got a joke up his sleeve. Tell you what, though, the weirdest part of the weekend. This is my hot of the weekend. I'm standing outside ITV Studios. Steve's doing a live link, and I'm talking with Paul O'Neill, Jason Plato, Matt Neal, and Colin Turkington.
Yes, I saw they had them all in there for a chat.
I was with them just beforehand, and let me tell you, I can't repeat what was said, but I now know a very interesting story that I'll tell you off air. That made me just giggle, and actually, it's the legends of the sport. You're just a bunch of 12-year-olds, aren't you? Because it was so hilarious. But yeah, honestly, it was very nice, and they were always very, very, very loving, and yeah, it was a good weekend. Saturday was a bit of a nightmare. I'm not going to deny it. A lot of things went wrong, technological wise and pass wise as well. That got sorted for Sunday, but yeah, Saturday you forget that. Sunday was beautiful, and I'm very proud to have been a member of the touring car paddock, and proud to have sent Steve off in a fitting way as well. And it's going to feel very different going in for the second half of the season with a new voice at the helm, but. Yeah, we move on. That was my ultimate hot of the weekend.
Yeah, it's a part of our this again a very UK centric based chat. It's a part of our childhood. Murray and Steve and touring cars, and obviously with Murray dying a few years ago, now Steve retiring. It's two of the linchpins of all of the touring car coverage back to 80 whatever, basically. Are now not going to be there, which is really, really sad. And the racing of the weekend was decent as well. I thought on track was really good.
Let's see if I've got the photo here.
I will say, with my fan cap on through gritted teeth, nice to see Gordon Shedden win the third race.
Oh, there we go.
There is a picture of him and Steve. Is on.
It's green screened me out, but yeah, there we are. Yes.
Adams. Steve had an outstanding career. Wish him complete success in the future. And by the sound of things, Josh is going to enjoy a few glasses of wine.
Yeah, it's a good one as well.
And that's Adam's hot there as well. Is you getting your picture taken with Steve? NASCAR, and IndyCar at Road America. Two races I haven't watched. NASCAR I would have been on the call for because, of course, it had a rain delay. And still don't manage to catch up. And Adam is going with Mark, and he's going with Ogier for his pick of winners. What's hot is the weather, which is not. It's not as bad here, Matthew, as it is where you are. It's very sticky here. Tonight,
it's muggy.
Serious hot chase Briscoe. He knew when stepping into the 19 he had to win. Big for him. The race for these final playoff spots is going to be terrific. Yeah, and it starts this week, of course, at Atlanta, as I mentioned earlier on.
Here's a knot. Batteries. I hate batteries. I brought a brand new one for my iRig, and it failed during race one. If I didn't have my laptop with me, I wouldn't have been able to do the commentary this weekend. My laptop has been positioned on a chair on a Toyota Gazoo racing table for race 3, but race 2 was the worst, on a bin. as it starts to rain at the track, right opposite the start line. I was like, for God's sake. It was one of those weekends where the technology was not on my side. But it was quite entertaining that it's not glamorous life as a media, because you will at some point in your life find yourself working on top of a dustbin. And I'm no joke about it. You do, it happens. But yeah, and not from the weekend. I don't like these ride height devices in MotoGP. I think Mark got very lucky in the sprint race at the start.
Very lucky.
Yeah, because if that had failed, it would have been whoop straight up as well. And we've seen riders, killed at Mugello on that start finish as well. It's not, I do not like it. Another one, it's hard to pick because of my distraction very much. Formula E, good race, but lax. I don't know what it was. It just wasn't biting for me, that race. I don't know if it's because it was another procession, but I think I've started to enjoy Formula E with Pit Boost. It gives it a bit of a oomph. It felt very processional on Saturday morning. So I don't know. I wasn't a fan. So I think that's my not for the weekend. Go on. What's your big not? I'm interested now.
In a surprise to everyone, I've still got lots of Formula E to catch up on. I think there's only London left now. Is that right? Am I right in saying there's only London to go?
Berlin and London, double headers. So Berlin is 2 weeks' time. London is a month's time. I think I can't work out, because I thought for sure that MotoGP Germany clashed with Formula One Silverstone, and I found out it doesn't. So my calendar brain is now gone because I can't work out how Berlin clashes with London, and I can't work out how Berlin clashes with World Superbikes in Donington, and Spa clashes with Formula E London. But they're still weeks and weeks away. I can't work out in my brain how it works out. So I've gone a bit motorsport season mad.
Yeah, Formula E Berlin is with Donington World Superbike, and of course it's with the German Grand Prix at the Sachsenring. As you say, a couple of weeks after that, London. I'm looking, as I said at the time when we talked about the calendar, looking forward to London being in the middle of August, because that means I might get to go next
year. Yeah, I'm too. Yeah.
My big not from the weekend was a certain MotoGP rider, Mr. F. Morbidelli, and his attempts to overtake people, which just are not working. He absolutely. You mentioned KTM had a bit of a tricky weekend. It was looking decent for Maverick Vinales on Sunday. He was in position to do a Maverick sort of second half of the race charge through, and then he got absolutely kiboshed by Vinales. And I honestly thought we were going to see a Stenhouse Kyle Busch in the motorhome scrap, the way Vinales was fuming in the gravel trap. But by the time he got back to the paddock, apparently he'd calmed down. But the pylon has been tremendous on social media. Alicia Spargaro's tweet was,
he's back this weekend.
Excellent. And as Spargaro back, he's replacing Marini this weekend. We must say at Honda to be back. So that could box on between Alicia and Frankie if those two get together on track in probably practice one.
Which they did.
Qatar, wasn't it?
Yeah, and in Silverstone they caused the red flag, didn't they? A couple of weeks back, yeah.
So you absolutely can guarantee those two are going to get together. But Morbidelli, he got a long lap penalty for knocking Maverick off, and then he blew through the long lap penalty and had to do it again because he's a Burke.
Admittedly, I think it was down there because he was, to be fair, a bit of.
I think he should have been parked instantly.
Yeah. That to me was a stupid maneuver, dive bomb in the inside of Luca. You don't do that because it's a tight line. It's equivalent of 90 degree. Literally, it's such a tight apex. Maverick did not see him coming, and he may as well have had bat radar as well to try and get that through. I don't know why he's gone from being Top Gun Maverick to now Batman. It's a bit of a weird change around for him. But yeah.
And to your KTM point about, other KTM point about people not wanting to be there. What has happened to Enea Bastianini?
My God!
He was a race winner multiple times over the last couple of years on Ducati, and now he's gone to the KTM and he just vanished off the face of the earth.
Another one. What's happening to Pedro Acosta was supposed to be the
Yeah.
second coming of Jesus Christ, and all of a sudden he's now looking more like the devil. What's happened to him on the factory? It's the same bike as on last year. The factory shouldn't have been that big of a step up, but he's struggling. And Binder was scared in the first couple of races of the season, and now he's all of a sudden back up there. And let's remember, there's still how many races there's to go? There's still like 40 odd to go, or something other stupid like that. we're not halfway through the season yet, and we're still having these battles. And that's why I say it's not all Marquez yet. A lot of things can still go wrong in this championship.
Banyaya's absolute favourite track this weekend at Assen.
Yeah, so, that's what I'm saying. I'm wondering about Sunday.
We'll have to wait and see how he does on Saturday to see what will happen on Sunday for Pecco. Adam has a knot, which is no more Amazon Prime for NASCAR until next week. They hit a grand slam with their coverage. Haven't seen Pocono yet, but I have to agree it's been tremendous, and the gold standard has now moved. Quickly before we go, because I'm sure we'll talk about it on the show next week, it's finally happened today in the UK and will happen on Friday in the States and other places in the world. The F1 movie is out. I am going to watch it tomorrow. I will report back with my findings.
Please do.
Depending on what podcast you listen to, it's either not very good or the best thing since sliced bread. So
it's not going to be Rush. I think Rush is the only film on the planet everyone can agree that's a good Formula One movie. It just sort of got nailed, didn't it? It was great. And to me, the only thing I can't get over is that we've got a 60-year-old coming in to Brad Pitt doing it. Is that what the hell? It's based off the Martin Donnelly story.
Basically, yeah.
So it's kind of believable, but it is the equivalent of Johnny Herbert coming back to do racing now.
And Johnny had his fair shunt, didn't he? So also in a camel liveried car. I'm
excited to see how that works.
I listened to Brad was the guest today on Tom Clarkson's F1 Beyond the Grid podcast.
Oh,
because it's release day of the film, and that's every week they have someone on. And today was Brad Pitt. It was only half an hour, of which 15 minutes of those were adverts. But he was talking the F1 lingo.
Oh,
and it really, I got it from like about him driving the car and doing this, and two names that I didn't expect to come out of Brad Pitt's mouth were Craig Dolby and Luciano Becchetta. But they were driving assistants on the film. Whatever happened to those two guys, amongst others. So I'm quite excited about it tomorrow. But also, other people have said the IMSA bit is the best bit of the whole film, and the F1 bit isn't very good. So,
hey, catch of the century! I just got my glasses. That's good.
Get yourself in the cricket team.
Yeah. Do you know?
So I don't excited for that tomorrow, and of course it's out in the States on Friday. So we perhaps will talk about it more on the show next week.
The only bit I've heard is I've heard a bit of Martin Brundle in the commentary.
Right.
Martin has this issue, right? He's had it for a long time. Martin can do great commentary, but if you give Martin a script, he will sound like he's doing it from the script. And if you ever played the F1 games, you will from the early 2000s, you will know what I'm on about. It's like, in first place, it's Giancarlo Fisichella. He doesn't. He sounds like he's commentating while reading a script. It's like we all do it. If you listen to me when I'm reading the script, it's like I'm a news reporter. That's how he does it. He doesn't give it the energy. Crofty tries a little bit. I just don't know how they struggle so much. I don't, because if I was doing a commentary and I was reading, this is how you know that none of this bit's scripted, by the way, because it'll sound like you're reading something out. But I don't know how they can't just change it, because it's easy to do. It just bugs me a little bit. So from a broadcaster's point of view, that's going to bug me when I go see it. Problem is, I've got to find someone to go watch it with me as well. It's quite a struggle, actually, as well.
Owens has got his crystal ball out again and says more Prime coming when TNT exits their contract early. Wow. They haven't even had their first race, and Mr. Owens is giving them the boot out the door.
I don't think TNT are unreliable, aren't they, as well?
We shall see. But yes, more chat on F1 the movie, I'm sure, next week. I will bring my thoughts from my
I better go watch it then in the next week. Okay, that was
I was going to go next week, but someone let me down. So in fact, I'll stop that. I'm going to go tomorrow.
Yes, I'll have to. I'll have to kidnap somebody.
I was going to say it's actually today, but we've got 8 minutes until tomorrow.
Yeah, we're off early today. Yes, I'm going to have to kidnap one of my friends as well. I wonder who's available out of the list of 3. And 2 are away.
Take Megan.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I don't think Megan actually wants to see it. So that's even more annoying.
Well, there's an indictment on the F1 film.
Yeah, Megan doesn't want to see it. If it was MotoGP, I think she would, but I don't think. I think Megan gets annoyed at things like that. She watches it and goes, "Ugh." She's very quickly like she watched. What was it? She watched half of Top Gun, and then stopped and wouldn't watch the end of it. And I don't know why. She won't tell me. So there you go. Unless it's got Harry Potter in it, I don't think she cares. So, taking a look at our upcoming schedule, it's a bit different this weekend, so stay tuned for Grid Live pre-race, their standalone shows to preview NASCAR at Atlanta and Formula One at the Red Bull Ring. Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up is 90 minutes, but after the Formula One race of the Austrian Grand Prix, because there is no NASCAR Cup in the evening. So, it's going to be very earlier on in the day for our wrap-up show. Monday night, Grid Encore is at 7 p.m. Eastern. That's recapping the truck and ARCA races at Lime Rock, Xfinity at Atlanta, plus Formula 2 and Formula 3 in Austria as well. So, please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for helping us reach 1,600 subscribers. We're now inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air, and follow all of our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Shell, Robin, David and Matthew. You invest each month to keep us on the air here on Grid Network, and we encourage you to join these fine folks. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the chat more often and continue growing our media outlet. The link to that is in the video description below. And if you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality cup of coffee, and they will thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.